Hey everyone, I'm Rosie and welcome back to my channel. So you guys remember a few weeks ago, I found these feathers in a Nat Geo magazine. I pulled them out because I just thought they were so beautiful and I want to use them today. And the thing I've been thinking about all morning that I just kind of can't stop thinking about is taking like a forest scene with a bunch of trees and putting the feathers in with the trees. So we have kind of like a feather forest. So the feathers are like upright and they look like trees. I don't know, there's just something about that idea that I really like. So I'm gonna try to make that work today. So let's get started. So here are the feathers that I pulled from that article. There's this one, which I absolutely love. There's this one, which folds out, which has a bunch, which I love. There's a few circular ones, which we might use, might not use. They might look like bushes. There's this one that kind of looks like an owl, which I love. There's this peacock, which we probably won't use, but there is one small little feather up here that we might use. And then the rest are textures, which I don't think are quite right for what we're doing today with the tree thing, although this one is so beautiful. But we'll probably use those for something else some other day. I also found this black and white illustration in one of my books, so we might use that. And then I also found some illustrations in this bird book. And these are kind of smaller, which I like, so they might be good for the background. So those are the feathers that I have today. I think the next step we want to do is go into my landscapes folder and we can look through the landscapes. I'm sure there's something in there that we can use. So let's go hunting for that now. Oh my God, this is a hefty boy. So I found a few backgrounds that might work. There's this one, which I think was in a magazine together. Oh, it's not quite lining up, so maybe they're just separate images. I did love the like sun rays in this one. I think that there's some really cool things visually in these, although I'm not sure if the elephant makes a whole lot of sense thematically. It's not like elephants have feathers. So these might not work, but I did like them. And then there's this one, which is probably the best one. What I like about it is there's, trees that are closer up so we can have bigger feathers. Like imagine one big feather here, and then maybe one over here. And then going back into the background, we could have some smaller ones. And I just kind of feel like there's a lot of potential with this background. So I pulled that out. Oh, there's this one, which I really like. And I think that there's potential here, but what worries me is all the like greenery. It's kind of like, do I have to cut out this whole thing with all these leaves? This might just be a difficult image to work with, although it's very cool. But I feel like there might be better potential if this image, like you did something else with the path, like with a completely different idea. This image is pretty cool, so I might not use it for this. Oh, and then there's this one. I really like the like white of the trees and a little bit of green here. It's just kind of a cool image, but would we maybe need to put the feathers like at a little bit of an angle? Maybe. I thought there were some cool things happening with this one too, but now that I'm looking at these again, I think that this one is probably the way to go. And I think we're gonna have to start cutting out the feathers next to see, what works there. Like I just love the idea of this like circular one being like kind of like a bush. And I like the fence, feels like it creates like a nice little front scene, which I kind of like. Like just picture this one feather in that field. I think this is gonna work. I'm gonna start cutting out some feathers and we'll start laying them in there. The one thing I wanna be careful not to do is overcrowd this image with feathers. I feel like I wanna keep it very simple, very elegant, because I feel like that's what these feathers are. Like their silhouettes are very simple, but they're incredibly beautiful. So I want to just kind of keep that essence and not overwhelm the scene with feathers. So we're going to have to be cautious of that. But let's get started cutting some of these out and see if we can make this work. So I don't think that this background is right. I feel like the perspective is weird. If I wanted feathers in the background, they're gonna have to be much smaller. There's something weird about, I don't know, this just isn't working. So I'm gonna go back into some of my other books and look for a different background because I just don't think this is it. So while I was looking for other backgrounds, I found this car that's really cool looking. It has these two people who are like looking up and out of the car. And then I remembered that one of the backgrounds I pulled out from before had this road. So I wonder if we put the feathers in this scene, like they're in the trees, and then the car is driving on the road and it's like it drove through this path, like this feather forest, and they're like looking up like, oh, that's so cool, the feathers are as big as trees. This might work. We're gonna have to see what the feathers look like once I start like tucking them behind the trees. That's gonna be sort of the big thing. If that looks good, then I think this might work. The car's kind of big, so we're gonna have to get that out to make sure that it fits on this background. I don't know. I feel like this has potential, so let's do a little bit more work to see if this is gonna work. I feel like I'm really not sure if this is gonna work until I start like cutting in to the trees and really integrating this scene, because right now it feels like a lot. Right now I feel like it's really hard to read. There's too many feathers. It's confusing. But I feel like if I did take the time to really tuck the feathers into this scene, it might work. But part of me also thinks that maybe we should look at the other background that we had. I'm just flipping and flopping on these backgrounds. So this one with the elephant with the cool sun rays, like maybe we cover up the elephant with the car, and then we do this scene with the feathers. Like I feel like the same thing's gonna happen with this one. We're not gonna know if it's really working until I start cutting into the page. And I also feel like this image isn't as big. The other one is bigger, and so it allows for more space for the feathers. So maybe this image isn't right either. I'm really not sure. I'm a little torn on this. I feel like I'm gonna just start cutting into this background and see if we can make this work. If we can't, we don't. If it works, then it works. But again, I'm not sure yet. Okay, so I do not think this is working. I think I need to take a little break, regroup, and figure out how I'm gonna fix this, because this ain't it. So after struggling with the feather forest idea for so long, I realized I needed to just try something different. So I thought maybe if I overlapped the feathers, I could create maybe something that looked like water. And then if I put the feathers, underneath a mountain, and maybe I could put like a kayaker or a canoeer in between the feathers to like make it feel even more like water, that maybe I could make that sort of landscape work. But when I started overlapping them underneath the mountain, I realized it wasn't looking like water and that maybe I could actually make the feathers into like a mountain landscape. And so make the feathers, each of the feathers into a mountain and sort of create a mountain range with the feathers. And so I started this crazy idea that I don't maybe will work. And so I first cut out a mountain to sort of like use as a base so I could have a guide and maybe something that actually really looked like a mountain to kind of get the idea across. And so I started playing around with this idea and let's see if I can make it work. So here's the collage that we made this week. You know, guys, I'm gonna be honest, I struggled a lot. I started yesterday with what I thought was a really good plan and a good idea, and I was just struggling to make that work, and that's okay, it happens sometimes. But then I was having also a hard time like coming up with a different idea. But I ultimately think what I made is really interesting, and it's like a technique and a style that I don't ever do and I've never really done before. So I think it was a really good experiment. You know, do I think it's the most incredible collage I've ever made? No, I don't. But I do think it's beautiful and I think it's interesting, and I think that there's some cool things happening with it. So I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I will see you next Thursday for another collage video. Bye.